Hi everyone, I am Nova Lewis of Essex-Hypnosis. So today I'm going to be talking to you about domestic and sexual abuse. This subject is close to my heart. So I'm going to say now, before I get into my own story, if you think my story may trigger you, please do not watch. Um, for me, I may be an award-winning hypnotherapist and psychotherapist, but what led me to doing the job that I do now was partly because of my own experience of domestic abuse. And in telling my story and opening up about my own journey, I hope it helps someone out there flee what they're going through, or maybe my story will resonate with you or someone that you know who may be going through the same thing. So, why I want to tell you my story. So, the other night I decided to watch the ITV program Her Majesty the Queen Behind Closed Doors. And watching that, it made me think about my own experience, which in turn made me want to open up to you all about my own story and what happened to me. Now, as a therapist, I am very honest with my clients about my experiences in life. And because I've been through something similar to a client, they know that they're not alone in their journey. Because when you're going through different things in life, one being domestic abuse, it can be a very lonely journey. So, my domestic abuse story started when I was 16 years old. I got with a guy that was 4 years older than me. And I was with him for 3 years. At first, the relationship was fantastic. It was great. He would buy me gifts, he would get me clothing, he'd buy me teddies. And if I'm honest, I literally felt like the sun shone out of his backside. And that's being honest. But the domestic abuse side of it, although, the coercive control was already starting at that point, the physical stuff didn't happen straight away, of course. But that other side of him, it could only stay hidden for so long. So the very first experience I had in the physical abuse side of it was one night I was with him and I was laying down and he decided to, he sat over me and he had his knees on my arm. So I was like this with his knees on me and he was hurting me. And out of the blue, he was just constantly repeating, singing over and over a chorus of a song, um, which drove me absolutely crazy. And when he finally got off me, and I was so angry, I will admit I slapped him round the face. I hit him first. So I will admit that. And in doing that, he slapped me back. And the shock that I felt in that moment, um, but he apologized. Um, and I remember I was at his place. I remember going into the living room. His mum was there. And I'd said to her what happened, and she had a go at him. And as I said, he apologized, and that was that. And I forgave it because I thought, well, I did hit him first, so maybe, him slapping me back. Um, I don't know. I don't know. But anyway. And it kind of went on from there. So the physical abuse got worse to the point where he would kick me, he would punch me, but it would never be in my face. He would never hurt my face because looking back now, I lived with my parents and he didn't want anyone to know what was going on, what he was doing. So all my bruises were covered up. And this continued throughout the relationship. Um, he was very controlling. So he had a thing about me wearing the colour white. He would tell me how to wear my hair, how he liked my hair, um, the certain things that the way he liked me to be. I suppose, in a way, if you think about it, I was so young, I suppose he wanted me to be a little bit angelic, which sounds strange. But as I say, the abuse, it got worse and worse. And the abuse ended up turning sexual as well. And how that come about, he would say things to me like, "You will do this if you love me." And of course, I wouldn't want to do it, but I done it. And he also raped me, but it was always kind of like a game to him. He would play it like a game. I suppose because in his mind, he didn't want to think of what he was actually doing to me. So he would make it into a game. Um, I was terrified of him. He was controlling. He would threaten to kill me. He would do things like put a pillow over my face and tell me that if I ever got with anyone else, that he would kill him and then me. It was stuff like that. Um, and that continued on for 3 years. It just didn't stop. I've been asked over the years, my parents, other people said to me, why didn't you tell anyone? Why didn't you just leave, get out of it? Well, number one, I was scared. Number two, I didn't want my family involved. And number three, probably the main reason was because of shame. I felt ashamed. I was a young girl. I wasn't a woman. But even if I was a woman, there is still shame attached to it. You feel ashamed if you're going through this. Now, I know it doesn't just happen to women, it's men as well. There's a domestic abuse happening to men too. And I'm totally aware of that. But I'm just talking about what I went through and my story. So, yes, shame was the biggest part of it. I felt ashamed. Um, but, after the 3 years of being with him, I finally broke free. I got the courage to finally break up with him. But, he never left it there. He wouldn't leave it there. Um, he couldn't take the fact that I dumped him. I didn't want to be with him anymore. He wasn't going to control me anymore. And these relationships, this is what it's about. It's all about control, and they want to control you. So I left and he kept coming back. In the end, I moved away out of the area. So I got away from everything, which was the best thing that I could ever do. Um, One of the points that I want to make about what I went through and sharing this story and what others go through, I hear it over and over again from clients that come to see me that have also been through the same thing or are going through the same thing. And what I, went through myself, and you would say to yourself, I can change that person. I can change. He will change or she will change. I can change that person. I thought it would stop. And I think when you're in it, you always think it will stop. And then you always question yourself when you're in these relationships. Did I do something wrong? Was it me? Did I do something? Well, the answer to that is no, you've done nothing wrong. It's not you. It's the person doing it to you. What made me wake up and realize what I was going through, because I didn't realize it was domestic abuse. Again, I was 16, I was in it for 3 years. So I was 19 by the time I came out, but I didn't realize what I was going through. And a lot of people don't in domestic abuse relationships, they don't realize that that's what it is because of the coercive control that's involved. But I was watching the Craze movie with Martin Kemp in it. And when I was watching that movie and um, the lady that played his wife in the movie, um, the way he was controlling her and how he was treating her. And I sat there and it was the light bulb moment of, oh my, that's me. That's what I'm going through. And as I say, it was a light bulb moment. And I remember just going, sitting in my bedroom at the time and just crying, breaking down. And I remember thinking to myself in that moment, I want to die. I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want this. In the end, when I did break up with him, finally, it came down to it's me or it's him. Do I take my life because of him or do I break up with him? Obviously, for me, I broke up with him. And I know, cases where it does end up in tragedy and the person being abused, you know, it can end their life. Whether that be the perpetrator that takes the person's life or that they end their own life. But I decided to get out of the relationship. So what I want to talk about now, I want to give you some statistics. I've kind of scratched the surface of my story just to let you know that you are not alone with this. And I've been through this myself. But 1 in 3 women experience domestic abuse in their life. 1 in 3 victims of domestic abuse victims are male. So that's 751,000 male domestic abuse victims and 1.38 million female domestic abuse victims worldwide. And every 3 days, a woman dies due to domestic abuse. And on average, it takes a woman 5 years, or a man, 5 years to leave an abusive relationship. Now, domestic abuse is defined as an incident or pattern of incidents of controlling, coercive, or threatening behavior. And that can be violence or abuse, psychological, physical, sexual, financial, or emotional. Coercive control is also a form of domestic abuse and can be difficult to spot, especially when you're in that relationship. And it's a form of abuse that happens slowly over time. It's a form of psychological abuse where an abuser carries out a pattern of controlling or manipulative behavior in a relationship. And so, as the victim, you end up doubting yourself because you have low levels of self-esteem. And then that makes you more dependent on the abuser. So I'm going to go through some signs now that someone out there may be experiencing with coercive control. So the first one on that list is becoming isolated from your friends and family. Now, for me, it was definitely like that. If I'm honest, one of my friends, my best friend at that time, Um, he was hurt. I'm not going to say what exactly, but he was physically hurt by um, my abuser. But and that in turn made me lose all my friends, all the people that I knew. Um, but again, becoming isolated from your friends and family, it's very common and it happens gradually over time. Um, and it's not until you do some reflection and realize what's happened um, that you realize that the abuser is gaining control because all of this is about control. So it may be um, that the person that you're with or that you've been with, they've criticized your friends and family or even hurt them. Um, and you may have brushed that off for a while and thought, oh, they're just saying stuff, it's nothing. But that's definitely a red flag to look out for. Um, it may be that that abuser is saying that, your friends or family has issues with them. And you may feel like you need to um, stand up for the abuser. So the next one, being gaslighted by the abuser. Again, this is really subtle and it's manipulative. And again, it's coercive control. So you end up doubting yourself and questioning your own thoughts and feelings to the point where you start to think you're actually going mad. So has your partner accused you of saying things or doing things that you haven't? Um, and then when they do that, you start to doubt yourself. Has your partner ghosted you for periods of time and you've been unable to contact them or they haven't responded to you? Um, the next one is being criticized all the time. Is that abuser criticizing you, putting you down, no matter what you do? Do you constantly feel like you're not good enough for them? Do you feel like you can't do anything right? Are you doubting how you look? The next one on the list is, are they monitoring what you're doing? Because again, it's about control. Do they check your phone to see who you're speaking to, who you're messaging? Do they look at your social media? Do they take an excessive interest in what you're doing, where you're going, who you're going with? Um, the next one on that list is feeling like you can't do what you want anymore. And again, it can be very subtle. You know, have they stopped you from doing activities or hobbies that you used to do? Have you stopped going on nights out with your friends? The next one is control of finances. Again, this may start very innocently. They may say to you, maybe we'll get a joint bank account. But again, that will lead to the control. Do they watch everything that you're spending? Do they have control over your finances? Do you have to ask your partner for money? Again, they're in control. The next one on the list, they control your choices. And this is them telling you what you should and shouldn't be doing, how to live your life, so that you then become even more dependent on them. Do they tell you what to wear? As I said, for me, he liked me wearing white. Do they tell you where you can go? Do they tell you what to eat? All these things, again, is that coercive control. The next one is a partner coming across as jealous. You may actually start to think, oh, they care about me. That's why they're saying these things. But again, it's another way of controlling you. So, is your partner constantly jealous of who you're spending time with? Are they accusing you of doing things that you're not doing, like having an affair? It's things like that. The next one is your partner threatens you with violence. So using the threat of violence in any way to get what they want, and it's intimidation. They want to scare you. And again, as I said about my story, I was scared and it was threats of violence. Are you scared of your partner? Have they threatened you in any way? And the last one on that list is them controlling your sex life. Again, power and control. Do they try to withhold sex from you? Do they try and force you to do things that you're not comfortable with? Do they tell you when you should be having sex? These are all things with coercive control, and it's a pattern and it builds up over time and it becomes worse and worse and worse. So in telling my story today, I just hope it helps someone out there. As I say, I'm a therapist and I get to hear a lot of stories, but I wanted to share my story with you because you're certainly not alone in your journey. And if I can help anyone in telling my story, which will enable you to get out, or somebody that you think, actually, that what you said there sounds like my friend, sounds like my family member. You need to talk to them, and they may really struggle to tell you anything. But just look for the signs and keep talking to them, because at some point they will open up. There will be moments in that relationship, in what they're going through, that they will open up. I know that there was moments for me where I was so scared. There was a particular occasion where I was so afraid that I tried to run, and I was going to tell. And I remember screaming, "I'm going to tell my dad." And he grabbed hold of me and literally threw me like I was a rag doll. And yeah, he absolutely terrorized me. And then I never did tell. But there will always be those moments that you want to tell. So if you feel that someone is going through that, keep talking to them. Be their ear, be their listener. If you want to talk to me, if you want to reach out to me, then honestly, you can reach out to me. If I can resonate with anyone out there with my story and you need help, then you can contact me and I will leave the details on here for you to make contact with me. So my website is www.essex-hypnosis.co.uk. You can email me at nova@essex-hypnosis.co.uk, or you can call me on 07393 200 819. Let's just keep getting that message out there that if you've been through this, if you're going through this, you're not alone. And I'm standing with you in support of what you've been through or what you're going through now. So I'm going to end this now, and I wish you all the best. Goodbye.